Well, welcome everybody. Good morning. Happy June, June 1st. You know, it's not often that you have one of these calls right on the beginning of the month. And I think Amy even commented earlier. She says, you know, summer months are great months for this business. You know, people are out and about. People are moving around. A lot more business is processed in the summer than any other time of the year because people are just, they're more active. And, you know, this is when we really want to you know, get a lot of traction for you guys. And one of the things that I know we've talked about before, we always like to revisit it because, you know, it's one of these things that I think, and I know I've made mistakes, a lot of them, but I've made a lot of mistakes when it comes to getting referrals. And, you know, I forget to ask for them. I don't know how to ask for them. When should I ask for them? You know, so we're going to talk, and we're going to hand it over to Chad here in a second, and he's going to give you some ideas of some things that, you know, I think Chad developed some really good habits. One of the few really good habits that Chad had. I'm kidding, Chad. That when Chad used to be a financial planner before he got here, and one of the things that Chad came to the table with when he got here was he talked a lot about how they would go about getting referrals, the processes that they'd use to get them, and they're actually quite effective. And what you'll find is that if every person you come in contact with, whether you sell them or not, whether they're moving forward with you today or tomorrow or maybe they're not, still use these processes because what you'll find is it makes it a lot easier to build that portfolio when you just take these few easy steps. So, Chad, I'm going to let you kind of take the floor here and go through some things that you used to do to get referrals in the financial planning business.
All right, thanks, Chuck. Really simple. I think anytime you put a system in place and you use that system, your results are gonna be better than if you don't. And what I found is, and I would say each and every one of you should do this, is find out what the value of a referral is to you. You know, and it doesn't have to be dollars and cents. It can be, well, how many cold calls or how many places do I have to walk into where I don't know anyone to get a deal versus when I walk in and I have something to talk to them about and I got referred into them. You know, once you know what the value of that is, it makes it a lot easier and a lot more painful when you forget to ask for them. Has anyone here ever forgot to ask for a referral?
Sure.
All the time.
Yes.
And the great thing is it's never too late to ask for them. So the system that I put in place is really, or that was taught to me, was to have three approaches to getting your referrals. You know, and the first approach is going to be very direct. You know, and I'm careful how I word this. You know, I'll ask them, you know, who else do you know that that's in your scenario, or, you know, who do you know that I could help out? So I'm asking not, do you know anyone, because that's open-ended and you're not going to get anything. I want to be very specific and get one or two referrals. You know, who do you know? And a lot of times that's all you're going to get is one or two by asking, you know, who else can I go and talk to? And you're going to get some hemming and hawing, but that stream isn't going to be real big on how many you get. So then my next approach is, you know, planting seeds, and I'm going to also bring some to the table. And some of the ones that I bring to the table are going to be who their neighbors are. Some of you guys have probably heard this from me before, but I'd always ask, you know, 3 doors to the right and 3 doors to the left. You know, what other businesses are around there? You know, be cognizant of the type of business they're in. You know, if it's an auto mechanic, what other services is he using or she using? You know, where do they get certain supplies from? What vendors do they use? And you can ask specifically for those things. And then the last thing I would always do is I would know which businesses were my money makers. You know, because those are the ones that I want to get referred into. And so if I do really well with veterinarians and dentists, you know, what do you think I'm going to target and ask for? I'm going to go right for, hey, do you guys have a pet? Who do you use for a vet? Start talking to them about that, so then I can all of a sudden I'm steering my way into where the money's at. You don't want to, if you're in a corner convenience store that does $3,000 a month, you don't want a steady diet of those. Don't get me wrong, I'll take them and I'll write them, but I want to get to the next level. I want to get to where there's more money. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yep.
Yeah. So you're saying go where the money is?
Exactly, and you can steer your referrals into that. I mean, just about everybody has a dentist. So when you're talking to the business, what dentist do you use? And in many services, if you're dealing with an auto mechanic and you've done really well with parts stores, or who supplies your parts when you do repairs? Because those guys don't keep an inventory. They're calling up, Napa or whoever as they're needing to do the repairs. So, it's three simple things you can do. One is ask who they know that you can talk to. Two is the 3 doors each direction. Know the other businesses around there because they know them. So whether you go on Google Maps or Reference USA or whatever to do a little homework before you go in and talk to the person, that way you can ask, since I'm in here, and on these, the beauty is you don't have to ask permission for that as a referral. You can say, hey, Judy, I'm going to be going across the street and talking to the jeweler. What can you tell me about him? And what you want to do is you want to get a dialogue going so you find out some information before you walk in the door over there. And, it can be as simple as, when I go over to the jewelry store, who should I talk to? What can you tell me about them? Once you get a little bit of information, it makes it much, much easier. It really warms up what would otherwise be a cold call. And I always ask them permission. Now, when I walk into the jewelry store, is it all right if I let them know that I've been working with you? Because once I can tell them, hey, I've been working with, Judy at the flower shop or whatever it is that I'm in. She thought it'd be a good idea for me to stop in and talk with you as well. Now all of a sudden it's a completely different conversation than a cold call. Would you agree with that?
Yep.
So real simple.
You can use those. Whether if I go into a merchant, let's say, like think of a scenario. You go in, you talk with the merchant, you get their statements, you go through the process, and ideally, everything lines up perfectly, and we're moving forward and we're doing business together. Even if things are, because we all run into these scenarios where maybe things don't line up perfectly yet. Things need to gel a little bit. And even if they're not moving forward right now, you still say those things. Hey, you don't mind if I let them know I was working with you? I'm working with you as I'm giving you guidance on your current, processing relationship. Whether it's moving forward with me, whether staying where you're at, or we're going to reconvene in 3 months and make the switch, it doesn't matter. I think a lot of people get caught up in the fact that, well, I can't go get a referral from them because I didn't sign them up. No, but you were there educating them, you were guiding them, helping them. Because what, we all know that 1 out of 5 deals, the merchant should just stay where they're at unless they're unhappy. But let me ask you, from a customer's perspective, say someone came to you with a service that you have, gave you some quote-unquote consulting and said, you know what, unless you're unhappy, stay where you're at. Would you appreciate that?
Sure.
I would. Yeah, I would. I go, hey, yeah, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate that. You know what? That's great. You know what? You just did a service for me. You let me know that I've got a decent enough program that things are fine. So you can still ask me for a referral because you helped me out. So don't get this. I think there's a big misconception again that, oh geez, if I didn't sign them up, I can't really ask them for referral. And when you look at getting referrals I view it. It's funny about how this deal works, or how any real sales professional kind of deal works, is that it's like you're half analytical and half not. you're analytical from the standpoint of, I just need to keep adding more and more people to my database, my potential merchant database. So I need to get as many referrals as I can. I need to get in front of as many people as I can, because then I know the numbers thing takes place. The more people I get in front of, the more likely I am to write a deal. And the more I can practice my craft and learn it and become good at it. And then the other part of the way I view it is, I want to build huge relationships or rapport with everybody that I get in contact with. I want huge rapport for sure. And with that rapport, it's easy to ask for referrals. If I'm in there just selling by number, it's kind of like paint by number. It takes no thought. You just paint by number. Well, we don't paint by number here. We don't sell by number here. What we do is we build rapport, relationship. We have some back and forth. And even if I can't help this customer today because of that rapport, it's okay for me to do these things that Chad's talking about. I can ask for that referral and tell a story. I've always found that if prior to asking for something, if I can load it up with a story, it helps. It helps. And I go, look, obviously, my job is obviously I stay in business with the more merchants that I help, and the more merchants that process with me. And I understand that timing doesn't make sense for us today, because timing is everything. I completely get that. But let me ask you, who do you know that timing might be right for? And I've done that exact same thing for someone I didn't sell. And they go, oh, yeah, you know what? It's funny you said that, because I was at a BNI meeting last week, or I was having lunch with a group of local merchants last week, and this guy was complaining about his merchant account. Had I not asked him, he would have never told me about this person that was complaining. So and it's hard. It's easy to forget to ask for referral, because you're in the throes of the deal. I get that, man. I'm in the throes of the battle here. I'm doing the deal. I forget to ask. So make sure that you build these things in every time. Hey, you know what? I was going to stop across the street over at that tire dealership. Hey, do you know who owns that? Oh yeah, that's Phil. He's blah blah blah. Then they're gonna give you some information, and then you go, hey, you don't mind if I'm gonna stop by and talk to him. You don't mind if I tell him I was just helping you out, making sure you had the right program, do you? You notice the words I choose. I don't go, hey, may I do this? I go, you don't mind if I just let him know that I was working with you, do you? You see the difference in words? You don't mind is a lot more forgiving than, hey, may I? So I go, you wouldn't mind if I did that, would you? No, not at all. So paint the picture. Sorry, Chad. Go ahead.
No, I think that's perfect. And this is one side of referrals too. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can ask for them. The only wrong way is to not ask.
Right, yeah. The only wrong way is to not ask for referral. That's so true.
If you look at the numbers too, what is it, like 20% of the time people ask for referrals, and so if you like both Chad and this is John Eliason, by the way, both Chad and Chuck have been saying, if you have to make sure you make it part of your spiel, your repertoire, your conversation, your presentation, whatever you want to call it, because like Chuck was just saying, you get in the throes of the deal, and I know sometimes you forget, but if you have something to put, like we put in our paperwork, or I don't know if it's still there, but at least it once was, hopefully it's there, a sheet of paper in there that is a referral sheet, and it's in there so that it just prompts you to remember to do it. So, if you think of, if the average person asks 20% of the time, or most everybody, they'll ask 20% of the time. If you can remind yourself, if you make it part of the process to go, look, I want to do it every time, it's still not going to work, because sometimes things aren't going to pan out. But if you did, let's say, 80% of the time, that's 4 times more. And so if you get 4 times more referrals, I don't know about you, but referrals, in my experience, have been a whole hell of a lot easier to close. They're easier to get. It's a warm contact, like Chuck just gave you the words, hey, it's just over at, so-and-so. And whether you write, if they come from a client, or they come from somebody who said no, if they say yes or no, if you ask a referral, and Chad said it earlier, he said, what's the value of a referral? It's maybe not necessarily money, but it's the pain of having to cold call a bunch of people. That's a horrible experience. So if you don't have to cold call on 50 people, and that's worth 1 referral, my goodness, man, if you put it in that perspective, referrals worth a lot, and then they're easy to close. Boy, it's a quick way to almost easily double your business. Would you guys, Chad and Chuck, anybody else agree or not agree?
Oh yeah, by far.
Definitely.
You know,
Yeah.
it actually does more than double, because what happens is it just creates this kind of just, and you stay consistent doing it. I mean, it triples, quadruples your business, because
Yeah.
you're asking for it every time, and so you're just in front of that many more people. It's like you can't help it. And plus, understand. I mean, this it's sales. People are going to say yes, people are going to say no. But and when I look at those no's, those aren't no's, those are not right nows. And you know what? I love having a database. Give me a database of a couple thousand not right nows, because I'll keep drip marketing on them, and I'll keep in contact with them in a creative fashion, in an effective, efficient way. And those not right nows all of a sudden turn into a heck of a lot of nows. And what happens is when they turn into a now, you have another opportunity to get a referral from them.
You know, that's
So
if you, and let me jump in there too, because Chuck was saying use a database. You all have access to Connect, the software that we've made, that we've really built the way we do business on, and it's all available to you guys. It's surprising how few people use it, frankly, and how many people would like to make more money, but how few people actually use it. I did a whole bunch of recordings, and to make it easier, and they're on there now. When you log into Connect, you'll be able to see the recordings, and it fits in with how we do business, and it'll show you how to use it to do exactly what Chuck just said. If they say no, if they say yes or no, it doesn't matter. You keep them in Connect, and you drip market. It's all in there. Just all you got to do is go into Connect. It's almost like a mini business plan on how to make a fortune on referrals in the Visa MasterCard business. That's what you have at your fingertips right now if you log in and use it, and just follow the instructions, and then have something with residual income. It's just a crazy profitable way to go.
Someone's logging in right now to use it. You hear that?
Smart. Smart.
That's good.
Smart.
Well, and that's one of those things where, it's like being organized. Sometimes it's a lot of work to be organized, but what you find is you put that work into organization, then you can accomplish 5 times, because you're not wondering, where's that piece of paper? Where's that lead? Where is that? You don't have to wonder. You know exactly where it is. But it's being disciplined enough to put the stuff in there. I would recommend everybody, and I know this call wasn't meant for talking about the databases, but asking referrals, it just naturally leads to that, is, spend the time. Just allot yourself, go look every week or every day, ideally, because you got a lot of stuff cooking. Every day I have to at least spend an hour in my database time. I've got to data enter, the people that I met today or the referrals that I got to put them in there, because I got to track this stuff. And, if you spend your time doing that, what you'll find is later you won't have those days where you go, geez, who am I going to talk to today? Who am I going to go out and see today? What am I going to do? Because it'll be mapped out for you. And when you don't have to spend your mental energy trying to figure out who the heck I'm going to talk to, and your mental energy is spent on, here's what I'm going to do to close this deal, you're so much more effective that way too.
Yeah.
So, I'd really recommend, give yourself some time. Everybody you talk to, put them in the database. Look, I would use Connect because, well, I do, but I would use it because it's intuitive to how we've built this company, how I learned how to do it. Use whatever database you want, but use something, or whatever contact manager, whatever you want. So use something. And using this makes it a lot easier because it's geared for this. But spend some time doing that, and it'll be a lot easier for you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chad.
It's one of the things that the difference in how we learned how to do business is, back when, look, there's some real life back when. Let me just invest just a couple minutes here, because I think you'll find this handy. Back when we used to get a lot of business from advertising. That's almost all we did. We advertised. But what we found is that advertising, is, and you guys know it if you've ever spent any money in advertising, is damn expensive. And you don't, bless you, don't know what you're going to get out of it. So it's expensive and it's hope advertising. And even if you do know what you're going to get out of it or what you can expect, what happens is competitors come into the market, which dilutes your advertising effectiveness. And and competitors come and go, and most of them come in and they fail, and then they leave, and then your advertising is more effective, and then three of them come in, and it's like, geez, and so it's like, man, how do you make this work but not have to spend so much money on advertising or worry about the competition coming in and your advertising being diluted and less effective? And what we found is that if you just look at where your business comes from, referrals. If you get a referral, if you invest in advertising, you get a client, and you get a referral, and you get another client. Well, your advertising dollars just cut in half. If some buddy of yours, your grandpa, your friend, whatever, gives you a referral and you close it, then there's no advertising expense. So you start asking yourself, well, wait a second, how can I have enough business flowing to me that's all referrals, that all I ever have to do are deal with referrals? And how do I get more referrers? So like what Chuck was just saying is that you're going to spend, if you put everybody you ever deal with into your contact manager, and you work this stuff right, what you can literally end up with is nothing but referrals. And that's what we did, and that's what we did, and we made a fortune doing it. And that's why we talk about referrals, because it's the only way to fly, and it makes your life a whole hell of a lot better and a lot more profitable. And so it's referrals. If really take a step back and look at referrals and dive in. If you can figure out a way that, let's say if you get 10 deals, I wanted 20. I wrote 21 a month, and Chuck wrote 35. And they were all from referrals, Chuck, or all, what percent would you say?
100.
100%.
Everything. 100% was referrals.
100% referrals. Run the numbers on what that means. So, it's a different way to go about it, because in your database then, and if you follow the way Connect is set up, just go in and listen to it. Just listen to some of the tutorials, and it'll show you how to do the same thing. And what we have in our database or when we were doing it like that, we had you have thousands of referrers to then bring you, X prospects. So, which the rest of the world will teach you to do just the opposite. They don't tell you to put referrers in your data. They don't even talk about that in this regard. Referrers are just getting referrals from somebody that you wrote or they said yes or no. But we said, wait a second, if we could build a machine that streams us nothing but referrals, and we need a lot of referrers. How do you do it? And that's what we've set up. And that's if you go into Connect and just go through the tutorials, it'll show you. It'll tell you exactly how to do that. And then you just got to figure out. Then you just got to put it together. And we're here. We've done it. We've done it a lot of times, and we can help you do it too when you come to these things. And when we're talking about this, when we open it up now for Q&A, that you've got questions about it. And the best questions, of course, come from your experience going out and doing it, and then going, okay, I ran into this. How do I get around that? Well, we probably have the answer, because we've done it for so long in so many ways and directions. Anyway, I'll hop back now, and hopefully that makes sense. I get excited about it because I know Chuck's world has changed, my world has changed, Chad's world. It's a different world because we took a step back and went about marketing differently than everybody else in the world does, and it paid off in spades. And you can do exactly the same thing because you connected us.
Sorry, Chad.
No.
Sorry, Chad.
Good.
I should be apologizing. Sorry, guys.
Don't be sorry. That's gold. And if you guys didn't write some of that stuff down, and more importantly, if you don't start putting it into actions, don't let that slide by. The other thing about referrals too that we haven't touched is we've all talked about what's bringing business in, but I don't know how many of you guys are aware of this, but you can actually recruit and refer other agents in, and good salespeople generally know other good salespeople. And so a real easy way to build up your residuals and your stream of income coming in is have somebody else doing the work for you, right? And through our agent referral program, that's something you can definitely do.
How does that work?
Chuck, or Chad, if I wanted to know more about this agent referral thing, how do I find out about it?
Okay. You know, I want to get to the Q&A, but it's real straightforward. You can talk to your agent director, but if you know them, you can go right into Connect, and you can go into building your business or growing your business and actually put that person's information in, and we will contact them for you. So in the back office.
What do I get when I do that?
Okay, so it's under expansion, and what happens? So as soon as this new agent writes an account, you'll get $200 for them writing an account, and then everything they write from day one on, you receive a 5% override on the residuals on their accounts. So
you know we've had a number of people over time that people that have been that connect with us, and they go, I'm my background is recruiting or advertising or whatever, and they've just started streaming people to us and who write business, and they still make a nice residual.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Good. All right, Chad, should we go to Q&A?
Let's go to Q&A. I know we've had a lot of Clover mini sales over the last 2 weeks, so that's exciting. And let's see who's running into some things that they're having issues with, or some successes. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. I've had some good success with the mini. Mini just seems like a great tool for a lot of my client base, but it's really catching on, and now that I understand it better, being the dinosaur that I am, it is a great business tool, and it's a way to anchor. Especially if you lease have the equipment leased, you have this particular client attached to you for 4 years. It's just a wonderful business tool for us, but it's also a wonderful business tool for these prospects that we've got out there.
Hey, Cam, it's John Lyson. What about it? Do you understand better now? Because I'd imagine that a lot of people are the same.
The benefit of this for the merchant much better than I did before.
You understand what?
I understand the benefits of this Clover equipment line much better now than I did before. It's a way for a merchant, small merchant, to really manage their business. There's so many things, so many apps on with this that will enable a small business owner to really manage their business a whole lot better than they have ever been able to do before, and a lot quicker.
What are a couple of things that come to mind that you go, in that regard, that, well, wow, this would help them manage things better? What are two?
Well, one of the things that I think that is very neat is the fact that you've got a way to help a small business with a transaction that they have, turn that particular transaction into a better customer by having things, rewards programs, gift cards, ways to reach out to this particular customer on Facebook, things like that, that just never existed before. Other ways to upload your customer data from your computer system onto Clover, so that you know exactly who this customer is, the moment they come in, and you have a lot better rapport with the customer when they walk in, and you manage them better. You are able to find out how often this particular customer comes in, what they prefer, what the products that they like to buy. Those are some things that I think are very valuable, and they seem to be valuable to the customers that I've been talking to, because I've sold 8 machines in the last week.
So it gives them, one of the things that, let me tie this just for fun back into Connect, our software, and how we track some of the things that we keep track of, and we have it in a notes section, which is yellow off on the left-hand side. So there are things that like endear you to the person when you call them, or you bring them up and you go, oh, it's this person. I remember their daughter likes penguins, or they buy size 32 and they love whatever. Just little things that if you can keep track, not in your brain because you've got too many things going on. If you can track when somebody comes into your store, when they're buying things, if you see what they buy, you can see trends. And then what you could do, if with these clients, because you have got Clover and the little apps that you can get for that, you can go, hey, you know what I want to do is I want to call. We've got this new fall line in. Why don't I call everybody that I think this new line would really be appropriate for, because they bought things like it before. So we talk about that, and you'll hear and see that when you go into Connect, how we do it and how you can do it with your clients and refers and prospects. But also Clover has it on a retail application for people who come in and spend their money at the store. And so when you do this, I mean, what a great way to, retail, they say location, location, location. And I think that's fine. But if you can figure out how to be proactive and go after your clients a little more aggressively, and not that you're bugging them, but you might be doing them a service by going, hey, we've got this, and they wouldn't have known unless you would have given them a call. That stuff is dynamite. We see it work in our business to a huge degree, and it's cool now that retail has it too, and it's built into something that we can get them for not that much more than a terminal, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
It's
awesome.
It's really pennies more when you think about it, to get this Clover versus just a standard terminal. It's an amazing piece of equipment.
Yeah, there's some such awesome. I try not to use that word in here. I'm using it. Everybody uses it. There's such very effective tools out there that, if whether it's, I'll keep pitching Connect here, whether it's Connect for how we've used it and how you guys can use it to take your business to the next level, and then keep going it to the next level and really set yourself free. And the same thing with merchants. Man, this kind of stuff didn't exist. Or like you brought up gift card, or there's so many things that used to be more clunky and hard to put together, how to knit together. And First Data, it's interesting that First Data, they handle they touch half of all the transactions that happen on this planet. Man, they are connected with data. They're a data information company and they have all this information because they touch all this data from credit and debit card processing. And now, all this knowledge that they have to grow the largest processing center in the world, they put it into the apps to help merchants grow. Man, it's if I were a retail merchant, I'd get it in a heartbeat, and if I were me, I'd use Connect.
Yeah.
Wait, I think you already do.
Wait a second, I already do.
Yeah. But you know what? I think that's a real good selling point too when you're talking to a merchant. When they're looking at programs, is that we do use FDR, the largest processor in the world. So why wouldn't you want to be able to tap into the data that they have available to them and understand like trends and things that are going on out there. I mean, why wouldn't you want to go there from a merchant's perspective? What's going on in my area? What are people buying? What are people spending their money on? What are they, those are kind of things. And how am I doing in relation to other merchants in my area? I mean, those are things you can do with Clover. I mean, I think Clover is a great way, in an inexpensive way, for a lot of these smaller merchants to have access to things that only the big guys did before. And what can they? I mean, they can catapult their business in the direction that they got to approach it like a business, like we do as agents. I mean, this is your business. You look at what you spend on your business, and you look what it's bringing in, and you maximize your dollars out to maximize your dollars in. Same thing here. And it gives you something different to talk to the merchant about, instead of, well, my rate's this and you pay this. Let's talk about some growth, because I don't know any merchant on the planet. Well, I do, because we always see a few goofballs along the way, right? But would you rather save $50 a month on your merchant account, or get set up with the system that could help you increase your cash flow by $1,500 a month? What would you rather do? Rather save 50, or rather get $1,500 more cash flow? I don't know about you.
We turn into more of a consultant to help their business grow, rather than look like everybody else who's coming off the street going, hey, cheap rate. I mean, you want to get paid as a consultant. Consultants make all the money. Salespeople, there's a huge. Salespeople can make a huge amount of money. The problem is most salespeople don't, because they don't go about it like consultants.
Right. That's exactly right. Does that make sense?
It's making sense for me.
Yeah, well, I know.
And it's making dollars sense to you.
I think that was well said, John.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Any guys running across any other? We always say, what kind of bottlenecks? So what kind of things are you struggling with that are running into that you have difficulty getting around? What are some, we always don't know. I mean, what you might be struggling with, we may not have touched base on. So what are some things, and quite frankly, you're probably not the only one struggling with it. If you are, there's probably other people too. But, we want to use these formats and these calls to give you guys the best we can and help you be successful and run your business. So what are some things that you guys are running across that you're having difficulty with? Nothing? Yeah.
What about getting past the gatekeeper?
Yeah, that's always, and Kim, you do really good with this. So I'm that's funny that I'm surprised you're asking that, because you're.
Well, I'm kind of doing it for the newer people that are here. But
can I answer that? Can I answer that real quick?
Sure.
I'll answer that with exactly why we're doing this call. Referrals. When you have when you get a referral and you call that referral, you get around the gatekeeper, because you're not coming off the street looking like everybody else. I don't like to talk to people when they come in unannounced. I have no patience for that. I don't have time for that. I've got other things on my agenda. First things first in my life. And so, but if somebody says, hey, you know what, Jim suggested I give you a jingle, that person, I'll give them the time. And if somebody even comes to see ends up with a gatekeeper here at our office, they'll go, hey, you know what, Jim sent me over, and then it's like, okay, well, I'll get them through. That's how you get around the gatekeeper. Referrals are the answer to all things, period. And it just makes your life easier. You don't have to muck around at the struggle. Anyway, that would be my answer.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, it is exactly right. Because when you get in with the gatekeeper, and I'll just use John and I for an example, just because, of course, everybody knows John and I know each other, so that's probably not a really good example. But, if I had a gatekeeper and someone called my gatekeeper and said, hey, John Eliason said I needed to get a hold of Chuck, they're going to go, oh, okay, well, I know the dynamics of that deal, so this person's going to get through to me. And so you have to kind of use that. And that's why referrals are so powerful, is that you can go, yeah, I was reaching out. Is Dr. So-and-so in? He's on a, well, may I ask who's calling? Go, yeah, this is Chuck Fowler, his friend or his colleague or his such and such said that I needed to touch base with them regarding some stuff. Oh, well, hold on a second. Let me, get him on the phone with you, or can you try back at this time? I do know there are certain scenarios that come up where, you get thrown into it, but you don't really have a referral. Maybe it's like a joint venture thing. Sometimes a joint venture thing, if I say I'm calling from XYZ Association, it's not quite enough yet. So, because the gatekeeper might know that, yeah, this person's a member of the association, but it's not that important to them, or it's not that tight, or whatever. So what I've always found with gatekeepers is learn to love the gatekeeper.
Yes.
You have to build rapport with the gatekeeper, because the gatekeeper is there to do exactly that. And what you'll find is if you knock the socks off the gatekeeper, or Cam, I think, says one time, you ring the bell of the gatekeeper, you're in. And the gatekeeper is going to give you like the lowdown, give you the inside track to stuff. And when you're working with the merchant, what you'll find is a lot of times these merchants will go back to the gatekeeper and go, yeah, I'm working with this guy on his, and they go, oh yes, he's a great guy or a great person or whatever. I would recommend going that way. So you don't really know the power of the gatekeeper, but they can shut you off. So befriend them. Build huge rapport with the gatekeeper, because it might mean a lot of things in the dynamics of your deal. And that sucks sometimes, because you want to get it to happen now, and the gatekeeper's like, no. You're gonna have to earn this. So you might have 4 or 5 calls to the gatekeeper every time. I'd be building rapport with that gatekeeper. I'd know everything about him. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure does.
Yeah. Yeah, if the gatekeeper loves you, because you don't know. You might call a merchant, and that gatekeeper could be the merchant's spouse. You think they have a lot of pull? Yeah. If you ever hear your mama not happy, no one's happy, or daddy's not happy, no one's getting a raise, or whatever. I don't know. I'm just saying. So you don't know the position of the gatekeeper. So never, ever, you got to treat everybody like, man, they're number one. You got to be super nice.
It's like sometimes when we do interviews here, when even when somebody comes in and they're expected to come in, we'll do things like just pass by them and go, hey, how's it going? And if they treat you like shit, guess who's not getting the job?
Right.
But they do. You never know who somebody is. They might be the person who's going to see you in the interview, but you don't act like that. You're just cruising by just to get a flavor of what their demeanor is. And same thing with that gatekeeper. Chuck is right. Often in small businesses, a spouse is working there, or even in here, at First Financial, if somebody comes in and somebody who might answer the door goes, God, they were dicks, or they're really nice. That has a lot of influence, because you trust the person that just let this person in. And so you're taking your cue from first impressions are huge too. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Boy, that gatekeeper is a big deal.
Yeah, the gatekeeper's almost like more important, because
yeah,
they're
it's
going
like
to
your
influence
first
how
sale.
things go. Yeah, it is. So how do you get around that? I don't know. I don't think there is a way around it. I think probably the best thing is just you want to befriend them, and you want the gatekeeper to love you. Because that typically, I would say probably 80% of the time, the gatekeeper has a fair amount of pull on what decision that merchant's going to make.
Yeah.
Whether it be a first impression thing, whether it be like, do you think this is a good deal, whatever it is, they have a lot of pull and influence. Good question. Any other questions before we part ways? Go ahead. Someone was saying something?
Yeah, what about a buyout situation when you have a terminal we're not able to
that was my next thing I
reprogram?
was going to talk about before we left, because I talked to Derek about your deal. And I don't know about you guys, but my philosophy on stuff is I like to get it closed now. I want things closed now. I don't like to wait on anything, because my experience has been when I wait on stuff, people will come in and eat your lunch for you. And I don't know, I don't remember the particulars, but let me lay out the dynamics so we all kind of got a flavor of what's going on. We're going into a merchant, and we've all seen this. You know, if you've done any deals in this business, you've seen this. Merchant's got a terminal that's proprietary. We can't reprogram it. And they got a X amount of time left on their lease. They've got a cancellation fee with their current provider. They got 6 months left on it. So what I like to do with every deal is and especially the hairier they get, like in this scenario where things are a little tighter to the vest, what I do is I create a balance sheet for every deal. And on my balance sheet, what do you have on balance sheets? You have your income and expenses, right? Is that what goes on a balance sheet? Yeah, okay. So I look at my income and expense, and I go, okay, here's what it's going to cost me to get this deal. I have to pay a cancellation fee. I got to get them a new terminal, whatever the situation may be. So I put that on my expense side. And then I put on the other side, I put my income side. And income means, okay, can I charge the merchant anything to make a switch? Okay, maybe I can charge them $100, let's say, to make math easy. So I can charge them $100. My conversion bonus on this deal is going to be $300 because I know the numbers at this point. And my forecast residual income over the life of the merchant is going to be X amount of dollars. That's my income side. So I go, okay, well, if this is my income side, how much of that do I need to give up to buy out this merchant? Because that's what I need to think about. If I go, well, I got to buy him a new terminal, my cost on the terminal is $250, but I'm making a $300 conversion bonus. Well, I guess in my opinion, I'd much rather make 50 today instead of waiting 6 months and hoping, because you know what they say about hoping, and then hoping to make $400 later. Because what happens when you start going, okay, well, then I have 6 months that I didn't get any residuals on it because they're not my customer yet. And it happens. I see it every day. Agents wait. They wait, and the deal unravels. The merchant goes, something happens.
Yeah, but what happens if you have, like, on a terminal, you have, like, 1.5, you might have 2 years because you're dealing with a contract of processing 3 years and a terminal of 5 years.
Well, I don't know what 5-year terminal thing.
Well, I mean, you're talking about $40. Even if you're talking about $40 a month,
well, then you got to weigh it out.
$40 a month.
Yeah, but you know what? If I'm saving $60 a month on my processing, and I have $40 a month for this lease I have to ride out for a terminal that's not even EMV compatible, I need to get a new terminal either way.
No, but they are EMV compatible. That's the only problem.
Well, then you know what I would do?
EMV compatible.
Yeah, hold on a second. I heard you. So what I would do is I would go, well, let me ask you. I mean, do you really – then I need to bring other value. I need to bring other value to them. Maybe my other value would be a Clover situation, which means I need to ask more questions. Hey, let me ask you, I understand that, but okay, so if they're in a lease, I need to figure out what does it cost to get out of their current lease scenario? What does it cost?
Right.
You can't it's like, I don't know, I can't just shoot in the dark. I got to know, so what does it cost to get out of it? And what can I save them? How much money am I able to throw into the deal because I know I'm going to make X amount on a conversion bonus? And if I leased them a new terminal, I would much rather, if I leased them a new terminal and I knew what it cost to get out of their old one, I would lease them a new terminal in whatever commissions I made. I'd apply to buy them out of their old one because I want the processing. Because I sure as heck would not wait 6 months and hope I get in there. Because that's never worked for me. I don't know, John, has that ever worked for you, Chad? Waiting?
No. I mean, your chances of the thing
waiting doesn't
go way down.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I would get, because, I think ideally everybody wants to be to the point in this business, and you will if you stick to it long enough and you do all the right things and build your relationships and your, I mean, I got to the point when I was in your situation, when I was an outside agent, I didn't really care if I made money up front. I mean, I'd love to, but if I didn't make any money up front, I didn't really care because I was just stacking them on. It didn't matter. I was like, hey, you know what? When you're stacking them on at 20, 30 deals a month, it's like, I don't care because I know that I'm adding.
Right, but you got to
adding,
understand times have somewhat changed, as opposed to 4 or 5
no,
years ago. At least
yeah,
I've experienced that.
Well, yeah, but you don't do the things that I did though.
Right.
And I understand because we've even talked about that. We've talked about this before. We talked about are you using your database how you should be? Are you drip marketing? Are you doing all those things that we should be doing? I mean, and I'm not putting you on the spot, Ray, and I'm just saying.
No, I understand. No, it's true.
It's true, of course. So how can you expect? It's kind of like if I want to be super fit and in shape, just like this other guy that I see, but I never run, I never work out, I don't eat right. How can I expect to have the same physical situation? Right. How can I have the same financial situation when I see somebody that's going, man, they're like religious about it. They're putting their stuff in their database, they're creative contacting, they're following up, they're doing all those things right, and they're writing 20 deals a month, and I'm doing it my way and I'm writing 5. I can't expect to do 20 because I'm not doing the same things. Because You're right, times change. But do you know what never changes? Here's what never changes all of time. Needs, and you know what? We're always dealing with people. People haven't changed in the last 1,000 years, just times have. We're in a different world, but they're still people.
Right.
People operate the same way. It's no different. So, so I understand where you're coming from, and I agree with you. Times have changed a little bit, but that's why it's even more important to be on top of the creative contacting, the managing my database properly. And I'm not gonna lie, guys, it's work. But what I found is the pain of doing that, the pain of sitting down every day and putting things in my database, creating my creative contact, following up, the pain of doing that is a lot worse than the pain of struggling to write a deal. And every month wondering what the heck am I going to do this month to get a deal on, and stressing out over things that I don't need to if I just do these other things. That pain is a lot worse, the pain of struggling. So you got to kind of weigh it out. And that's what we see happen with guys that are good sales guys that can close business, is they approach it like a sales guy. And they go out and they write a little business and they make a little money. But guys that have that sales ability and approach it like a business and do all the things that they should do on the administrative side with the marketing and their data and doing all those things, guys that approach it that way, those are the guys that hit it so far out of the ballpark and make so much money in this business because they're competing against all the sales guys.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like the difference between being a pro athlete and a weekend warrior.
Right.
It's tremendously huge because the pro athlete's doing this. And look at golf. Golf is a great example. You see all these guys out there, and women guys, and I say guys, I mean men and women. But you see these people out there that they go out and they're weekend warriors, and they get mad, and they're slamming their clubs down because they hit a bad shot, and they lost the ball in the water. And you go, well, dude, if you played golf 8 hours a day like a professional, you'd probably play a lot different too. So don't beat yourself up. Just go out and have a good time. So if you want to do this deal and not do it like a professional and do all these other things, just understand what's going to happen is going to happen. It's cool. Go out and write a few deals, make a little money, and life's fun. Don't beat yourself up over it. Otherwise, treat it like a professional and go out and just kick it in the behind and make more money than you ever thought possible. There's two paths to take. You know what I'm saying? So.
Right.
But I do want to revisit that deal because I know Derek and I talked about it, and that's a convoluted one, man. That's like a hard deal, and I understand the position you're in.
Right.
But I think there's a way to get that thing kind of put together, and
right.
we can visit it offline. So anyway, I don't have anything else, and hopefully this helped you guys. Next week, same time, same place. Please bring whatever you're running into. I love the gatekeeper question. I love this how do you buy a deal out question. And we'll strategize some more. But let's have a great June is a phenomenal month. Let's have a phenomenal month and have a lot of fun doing it. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Great, everybody. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you all soon.